You know, Dan doesn't even get the golf thing right. I mean, sure, most politicians golf, but they all make sure they're lousy at it. Remember Gerald Ford? He played golf like a football player, hit anything that moved. And old Spiro Agnew, he can't even lie about his score. All you got to do is count the casualties along the course. No one wants to seem too much like a country clubber, except Dan, who shoots par, then seems to enjoy reminding us of it.
I got to get some exercise somehow, other than just bringing down the trash.
But Dan is a big boy, and he's got to get with the program in the tradition of all those great English-speaking politicians of this century.
From Stettin in the Baltic.
Names like Churchill, Kennedy, and even Nixon, for God's sakes. And what's Dan's great advice to us?
Don't panic.
And who can forget that eloquent sports metaphor?
My good friend, perhaps not a good friend in this audience, but some would respect him, my coach of IU basketball, Bobby Knight, told me this. He says, there is nothing that a good defense cannot beat a better offense. In other words, a good offense wins. Our strategy is not defense.
Okay, so it's not quite on a par with the Gettysburg Address, but maybe if we heard it again.
There is nothing that a good defense cannot beat a better offense. In other words, a good offense wins. Our strategy is not defense.
He's a very different man from the intellectual midget that has been portrayed in much of the media.
I admit that I once had a coonskin cap and knew all the words to the ballad of Davy Crockett. I did, in fact, eat graham crackers, drink milk, and took naps in kindergarten. I was very partial to Superman and Dennis the Menace comic books.
I guess Dan just can't get away from those comic book superheroes. Listen to this one, and I quote, I used to be a Batman fan until I got this job. Now, all of a sudden, Robin looks awfully good. Since Dan has been VP, so much has happened. The Berlin Wall has fallen, the Soviet Union collapsed, and now there's a new republic and new leader. Such exciting times. Where is Dan while all this is happening? Cleaning up the Exxon Valdez oil spill in Alaska.
The purpose of my visit is to get a first-hand examination of the situation so I can talk with the President about it tomorrow when I have lunch with him. The President is very interested in this whole issue. I'm going to tell him that I'm impressed by the ongoing work that is currently going on.
Huh? While George the Boss is making headlines with his neat friend, look where Danny has to go. Chile, to hold hands with that not-so-nice dictator, Auguste Pinochet. Now, is that fair? The Chilean crowd outside the embassy did not like Dan, but he still found a moment to be gracious.
The reaction to you?
The crowd? Well, I've had worse.
Back home at the VP mansion, Dan gets to meet with the likes of Prince Charles. Now there's a strategic leader. Or a photo opportunity with the real one. And never mind the remarks about who's real and who's the impersonator. So Dan has had to do his share of being a good sport. And after a slow start, I think he's finally catching on to how things work.
So I left on my 27,000-mile trip to the Pacific. The President called me in. He says, Dan, he says, our relations with the Pacific countries are very important to the United States, but we're going to let you go anyway.
Huh? Well, they let him go, but I think he got lost on his way to the Aloha State. Here's what he said. Hawaii has always been a very pivotal role in the Pacific. It is in the Pacific. It is a part of the United States that is an island that is right here. Well, he's right. But this guy makes his own bad luck. He can't even make innocent gestures.
King, I feel right at home in this gymnasium.
When George Bush first trotted him out as a nominee 4 years ago, Dan got a tad carried away, but hey, who wouldn't?
When you get up there, he says, you tell George Bush one thing, go get him.
This poor guy isn't even allowed to be enthusiastic without everyone comparing him to a game show host or carnival barker. It's pretty clear right from the get-go that Dan was there to serve one function and one function only. His own mentor pushed him out there and then said, "Go ahead. Hey, it's open season."
I don't think I could shoot a deer. Quayle, that's something else again.
Well, if the president says it's okay, why can't us comedians take a shot?
George, Barbara, thank you. People look at Dan Quayle and say, why was he elected? I say, here's a big clue. Insurance, okay.
The man's got the IQ of an Irish setter, which makes him seem stupid to other dogs. Say this with me. President Quayle. Yeah, did you feel your sphincter just go, eh? Like that? Oh, the thought of him being president, I get that swirling Hitchcock thing behind me. I'm like, oh! President Quayle. If he's going to become president, you're going to find my ass out in the middle of the Mojave Desert with a Pan Am flight bag and a mirror trying to get the mothership to land. Get me the out of here, baby.
Everything you wanted to do. It's like slam dunking from a stepladder.
George Bush, Reagan Light. And if Bush is Reagan Light, then what the hell is Quayle? Some bad Xerox without any toner, man? Somewhere in America, a Ken doll is missing, and he's now the vice president. Vice President Rain Man. I'm an excellent politician, definitely an excellent politician. George emulates me around the country when he's away. Just up and down the driveway. Excellent politician. Uh-oh, what? No, 3 minutes, what? Uh-oh.
Oh, we love to mock and scoff and taunt, but you know, I've never been accosted by hordes of journalists while taking out the garbage.
Mind coming over and talk to us, Senator?
Give us some help. A lot of trash.
I think we owe Dan Quayle a reevaluation. I mean, this guy can play hardball when he wants to. Oh, sure, he's taken a couple of vicious blows to the head, but hey, he can dish it out as well.
The governor of Massachusetts, he lost his top naval advisor last week. The rubber duck drowned in his bathtub.
As we can see, Dan Quayle has taken political humor to new heights.
My name's Danny Quayle. I didn't go to Yale. Got C's and D's at Indiana U. What I'll confess is the key to my success is you talk like me and you'll be famous too. If you just talk like a Dan, much as you can. Talk like a Dan, my son. That's how to plan to be a famous man. And Georgie will be your fan.
Well, these guys seem happy that Dan is around, and so is the Washington Post. They just did a 7-part series on the Quayle Meister, and there's a publication called the Quayle Quarterly that tracks his every move. Oh, there's sweatshirts and T-shirts and toys and books and calendars and posters and everything, and even more on the way. Just as soon as Dan does something else new and wacky and zany. Which brings me to my next point, and Dan's too. I think we've been too hard on the guy.
And I hope that there's some respect and dignity for things that I did not do before we go rushing off with all these so-called rumors.
But rumors aren't really Dan's problem. It's the facts he has trouble getting straight. Another of his revelations involved the TV sitcom character, Murphy Brown. While many of the nation's top experts said poor race relations and economic conditions were the two main causes behind the Los Angeles riots, the vice president managed to uncover a possibility they overlooked. That's right. You might remember that. According to Dan, America's favorite fictional television anchor, Murphy Brown, represented what is to blame for the newest chapter in the decline of the Western civilization, or at least South Central L.A.
It doesn't help matters when primetime TV has Murphy Brown, a character who supposedly epitomizes today's intelligent, highly paid professional woman, mocking the importance of fathers by bearing a child alone and calling it just another lifestyle choice.
As usual, Quayle's comment made for good late-night fodder.
Dan Quayle blasted the season finale of TV show Murphy Brown, saying that it is morally wrong to raise a child without a strong male role model. Hey, Danny, Marilyn's been doing it for years, my man, all right?